goddamn military. And I'm fucking livid that we are stuck in the timeline where Alex Jones is right. Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Again, I'm Justin. Thanks for tuning in around 3 p.m. on a Friday. Housekeeping items right up first. Always thanks to our everyday sponsor, snackswag.com. If you want to go head over, get all your favorite Liberty swag. Special going on right now with the Don't Fuck With My Freedom apparel. And as always, they offer free shipping to all U.S. orders. Now, joining us today, we have one of my favorite musicians, one of my favorite artists, somebody I've been listening to since I was in high school, and not until I moved to New Hampshire and started getting involved with the Free State Project and getting involved politically did I ever pay attention to his politics or even learn how aligned we were. But everyone, welcome to the stream, Phil Labonte. Hey, Phil.
Hello. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. It's nice and it's very pleasant weather in New Hampshire right now, so I'm happy about that.
Well, it's better than Texas, I got to say.
It is better than Texas.
So, I mean, for those of you who might be watching who might not be familiar with Phil's music, I've been listening since 2006 when All That Remains released The Fall of Ideals. It was the soundtrack of my high school years. But again, it wasn't until I moved to New Hampshire, it wasn't until I got active in politics and Twitter that I ever got the chance to meet Phil. And it was, I believe you recognized me in the pit at a show. From Twitter, but you've been politically active your whole career.
Sort of. I mean, I've always been a kind of go against the grain kind of guy, and I've always been someone that wasn't afraid to, have an opinion. A lot of people are smarter than me, and if they have a public facing persona that they're trying to do that is outside of politics, they keep their politics to themselves. Because, I mean, there is some truth to the idea that, the things you don't want to discuss are religion and politics. If you want to stay friendly with people. But I used to get on the message boards on the internet, on all kinds of hardcore and metal websites and talk about things, argue politics. And back in the day, I was, I was fairly neoconish. And I didn't get my libertarian awakening until Ron Paul in 2007 and 2008 is when I kind of was exposed to libertarian ideas. So I used to be, the guy that thought that the Republicans kind of had it right. And when I was growing up, I was fairly interested in, Bill Clinton, and then the impeachment happened, and I was like, well, he's got to be removed from office because he lied under oath, And then I heard people talking about blowjobs, and I was like, this isn't about a blowjob. Right. Like, if I lied under oath, I'd go to jail, and I knew that. And so after that, I kind of thought, okay, the Democrats are the bad party, and the Republicans are the good party. And I thought that for a while, and then the war in Iraq happened, and I was like, wait a minute. This guy didn't have anything to do with, Saddam Hussein didn't have anything to do with 9/11. And I don't know why we're going there. And there's no evidence. There's no real evidence that there's weapons of mass destruction any more than the ones that we gave to Saddam Hussein in the 80s. And so I didn't really understand why we were going into the Iraq war. And then I was like, okay, so they both suck. And I started looking around for another political home, I guess. And then, I found Ron Paul and he exposed me to libertarian ideas. And I started listening to Tom Woods and listening to Tom Woods talk about Lysander Spooner and stuff. And then I was exposed to this whole new world of the Mises, the Mises Caucus world. And that was my introduction to libertarian ideas. So I've always been fairly political, and I've always been looking for the people that are ideologically consistent. And for a while, like I said, I thought it was the Republicans after I was exposed to, the Democrats' political machinations. And then I was exposed to the Republicans, and I'm like, well, they all just suck. So screw them. And now I just think essentially I'm borderline anarchist because, I think that the government's just a scam, and I don't know how an anarchist society would work or how we would get there, but I find Michael Malice's takes on things very appealing.
Right. Anarchist society can't be worse than what we have right now, is what
it can't be.
I like to say. But so it's really not uncommon to see musicians and people in the music industry have strong political opinions. It's just uncommon to see them have unpopular ones.
Yeah.
It seems to be the people in the music industry only want to speak out when what they're speaking out on is popular.
Yeah. Which is cowardly, but that's also fairly typical.
Right. And you've also kind of taken the approach where you have separated yourself from all that remains with your politics, or at least you say you have. I swear I've heard some songs that talk about the Fed and gold. So
I may have stuck the word Keynesianism in an All That Remains song, but it's in one of the deep cuts. You have to really look for it. So it's not something it wouldn't be one of the songs that was going to be a video. I wouldn't kind of sneak those kind of things into.
No.
Those are all love songs anyways.
Now, you've said recently on Twitter talking about it that you and your bandmates don't necessarily see eye to eye. Has your politics ever caused an issue with your bandmates?
I'm very much a live and let live kind of guy. And the guys know me, specifically Mike and Jason Costa, who Jason's been in the band for 15 years. Mike's been with me for 20. They know me and they know what I think. And they mostly have been, apolitical. As Mike starts paying more taxes and he's got a family now, he's getting a little more conservative. He just had his first baby last night, just this morning, actually. His wife had a baby. So, he's not the kind of dude that wants to impose his will on other people, but he's definitely become more fiscally conservative, or at least paid attention to it more. Right. And the other guys, they tend to be similar minded, but not, either not very politically aware or marginally politically aware. So it doesn't become an issue because I'm the only guy that kind of, sticks my nose into stuff and reads books behind the ideas that you hear on the evening news or whatever.
It's really hard to not hate taxes once you get a bill.
It's really hard. Really hard to not hate taxes.
There was a great article in the New York Times about it just yesterday that was circling around. I don't know how old the article was, but I was seeing screenshots of it yesterday, where a grape nut oil or grapeseed oil exporter from Mogadishu was talking about, me and my friends bought missiles to shoot at government agents because taxes are annoying. Not evil, just
Thomas
annoying.
Jefferson. It sounds like they were privateers back in 1776 or so.
But that's the state they've gotten to over there. Is taxes are just annoying, and that prompted him to buy missiles.
That prompted him to get extra awesome.
So I had to reevaluate my stance of not moving to Somalia after reading that article. Everyone always tells me on Twitter, just move to Somalia. I'm like, why would I do that? Well, maybe I might.
Well, maybe because I can get missiles.
Yeah.
I tell you what.
Well then. Now,
compelling.
You grew up in Massachusetts, same as me. The Commonwealth of the People's Republic of Taxachusetts, hell on earth, we like to call it.
Behind enemy lines.
When you moved to New Hampshire, did you move as part of the Free State Project, or did you move then become aware of the Free State Project?
Yep. I had no exposure to the Free State Project when I moved up here. I moved up here to get away from taxes and gun laws. I knew that because and I moved up here in 2011, so it was very soon after I kind of started getting into libertarian politics, and I knew that New Hampshire had good gun laws and the tax. They were, no income tax, no sales tax. And I was like, well, that's cool. I was like, that kind of fits me. The catalyst for me moving was I did all the stuff you have to do in Massachusetts to get a permit for to carry a handgun, and went to the issuing officer in Chicopee and said, okay, I want to get the Class A so I can carry. And they said, we don't give them out. And I said, what do you mean we don't give them out? I was like, we got a constitution that says that you have a right, like it's protected. You can't do that. We don't give them out. And I'm like, so I got to get a lawyer and fight in court to get you guys to give me to let me exercise my right. And they're like, yep. And I'm like, all right, well then I'm going to move and Massachusetts can bite me. So I, got myself a big raise because I wasn't paying Massachusetts state income tax anymore. And it's only an hour away from my mom and from the guys and where we practice. So it's a quick jump down 91. 91 makes it easy. I tell you what, you jump on 91 and you're in the Springfield area very, very quickly. So, and most of it's straight too. So it's nice.
I mean, my catalyst wasn't really much different at all, except I got approved for my Class A and they ended up taking it away. For I think one of the dumbest things in the world. I grew up in North Attleboro and the Cape, splitting time when I went to college down on the Cape. When I moved back to North Attleboro after school, I applied for my Class A, got my license to carry. I eventually moved up to Natick when I was working. And in 2016, when I was working for the Johnson Weld campaign, at the end of the campaign, just going to blow off some steam, I was driving to the range in Framingham one night. And my appendix burst. I got in a car accident. End up in the hospital, wake up in the hospital, and they're like, so we found a handgun on you. I'm like, well, yes, I'm licensed. I was going to the range. The trunk of my car also had like 5 rifles in it. What do you like? What's the big deal? Well, this is a gun-free zone. I'm like, well, I didn't come in under my own free will.
You had a gun on you. They brought you into the, and they go. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, the Framingham and Natick police came to visit me in the hospital with a therapist from the state of Massachusetts to interview me. Afterwards, the next day, the Natick cop tells me, he's like, "Hey, listen, we're not going to do anything. We're not pressing charges. This was out of your control." I'm like, "Sweet, fantastic, a cool cop. Who knew?" I get home. When I get home, there's 2 Natick cops and 2 state cops 2 days later going through my safe, emptying out my apartment because they had filed a police report. Even though they chose not to press any charges or do anything with my license because they filed a report, the issuing town in Massachusetts decided to revoke my license. After they took everything, cleared out my safe, I called the lawyer. The lawyer's like, first thing, I want you to give me an inventory. So I gave him an inventory of everything they took. He called me back and said, it's going to be cheaper to move to New Hampshire and buy new guns and fight this in court.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. That makes sense. And then you could get, standard capacity magazines. But I mean, I knew Massachusetts was bad, and I just, when you hear stories like that, I can't help but be taken aback by that kind of brazen violation of your rights. I mean, and yeah, it is cheap. It probably was cheaper to move to New Hampshire and to fight it in court.
I mean, it helps that I was already past my libertarian point. I'd already embraced libertarianism as an anarchist. I'm like, all right, fuck it, I'm gone.
Yeah. But you can't actually be an anarchist in Massachusetts. You can think you're an anarchist. You think you are,
but you're still there.
You'll act like you're an anarchist as long as no one's looking. But if they find out, they're just going to come and pick you up on principle. So.
Well, I mean, that's happened to people in New Hampshire too. We like to say it's the live free or die state. But I remember growing up, there was a case, I can't remember their names off the top of my head, but it was a dentist and his wife who had conscientiously objected to that terrible thing called the income tax. And they were refusing to pay federal income tax. They were in New Hampshire, and the state of New Hampshire did nothing to protect them. And the IRS ended up putting their house under siege.
Yeah.
Because they refused to come out and nope, fuck you. We're not surrendering. The IRS and feds swarmed their house, had them under siege, and they ended up disguising themselves as supporters delivering food because they were letting people in and out, just waiting to arrest them. The IRS agents ended up disguising themselves as supporters to bring food, got let in the door and arrested them, and then auctioned off the house and everything.
Incredible.
Here in New Hampshire. Like,
well, I mean, you know, part of so you mentioned earlier Texas, and part of the reason why I got a place in Texas is because I think that it would be good to have a place in New Hampshire as well as a place in Texas, because I don't imagine the state of Texas the state of New Hampshire would ever interpose itself, or maybe not ever, but the current government in the state of New Hampshire would interpose itself in between the population and the federal government. That I think that it's far more likely that the state of Texas would do that than would the state of New Hampshire. So
I'm not even sure it's so much the state as it's so much the people. Here in New Hampshire, like, yeah, live free or die. It's our state motto. It is very much the mentality of people in the state, but a lot of people just don't want to get involved in your shit. Where in Texas, I mean, you have with the Texas secession movement, with the Second Amendment movement, and the robust conservative culture in Texas, there's a lot of people who are willing to stand in front of a Fed when it comes to something they have an issue with, as much as they're willing to stand behind a Fed when it comes to something they want the Fed to do. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think that the probably the further north you go in New Hampshire, the more liberty-minded the people are. You know, there are some people in the Keene area that are liberty-minded, but there are also some people in the Keene area that are very that you can still smell the Massachusetts on them, I guess. Might be a good way to describe it. You know, they work in Massachusetts because they don't mind paying the income tax, but they like to not pay the sales tax, and the property tax is cheaper up here than it is in Massachusetts. So they commute to work and stuff like that, you know?
Right. It blows my mind how everyone in Massachusetts keeps voting for these taxes and voting for more government. Yet when I go down to the mall in Nashua, there's not a single New Hampshire plate in the parking lot.
Yeah. It's
everyone's willing to drive to get away from the taxes that they voted upon themselves.
Yeah,
but no, to your point about the people up north being just more libertarian and more anarchist, more on their own. I had mentioned that to a new mover from the Free State Project once, and he's dumbfounded. He's like, if they're more libertarian up there, how come they keep voting Democrat, keep electing Democrats to the state house? I'm like, well, because they're so libertarian, they don't fucking pay attention, and they still think Kennedy's a Democrat.
They think that the Republicans are actually the authoritarians, and the Democrats are or I think it's the 60s, and the Democrats are the ones that are all the hippies. Because
last time they turned on the news, Kennedy was the Democrat and Nancy Reagan was leading the Republican Party.
It's a long time ago.
Right.
A long time ago.
Yeah, just say no to Nancy. So, aside from music, I know the past year has been a shit show. You guys haven't been able to tour. Nobody's been able to tour. A lot of people have just been putting out new music and bedroom music videos, which has been kind of neat with the music industry this year. But a lot of people have becoming more outspoken, more political within the music industry. And as a fan, as somebody who observes from the outside, this isn't abnormal. It seems like every election year, every musician has an opinion. Yeah. Every time there's some major issue, every musician has opinion. This year with the pandemic, it's been a whole lot of musicians stay at home, safer together, get your vaccine. You've been the opposite.
Well, I'm pro-vaccine. I'm vaccinated. I think that the vaccine is probably a good idea. I think that you should talk to your doctor. I'm not the dude that's like, that thinks they're putting 5G in your arm. Right. But
I haven't seen a single thing from you saying everybody has to go get vaccinated. You can't come to my shows unless you're vaccinated. Stay home and social distance. You're killing grandma. And that's what I see seems to be the normal in the music industry these days.
I think that, I try to be charitable as much as I can. And I think that that's a worthy perspective to take when you're dealing with people that you don't know. And so I like to think that they believe that they're doing something good and that they're trying to help people. And I think that overall, like I said, I think that getting a vaccine is good. If you look at the results from the vaccinations, barring any kind of negative long-term consequences that we can't know now, it seems like the vaccination is people that get vaccinated don't get sick. If they do get sick, they get a much milder case of COVID if they do, if they get it. So it seems to me that it's a good idea. I am never, ever for forcing anyone to do anything. I'm, like I said, I'm a anarchist-minded person. I'm a voluntarist. I don't believe that the government should force anyone to do anything. I don't like I was fairly pro-mask last year. I was like, look, just wear the mask. If you don't I would never say that they should mandate masks. And I think that a store that says we don't want to have people wearing masks in our store, they have every right to do that. And I think that
Absolutely.
a store that says, look, we want people to come into our store. We want everyone to feel protected. So I want to have people wear masks. I'm okay with that too. And I would carry my mask around, and I would accommodate whatever store I was going into or whatever. That's not an issue for me. I'm not, at least personally, I didn't have a problem with it. I have a problem with the force. I have a problem with the government saying we're the guys with the guns, and if you don't do what we say, you're going to get a gun shoved in your face, or we're going to handcuff you, or throw you in a cage, or beat you, or just you're going to have an interaction with a man with a gun. I mean, that alone, right? Like a dude with a gun comes up and says, you have to do this. Like, I carry a gun all the time. Like if I'm legal to carry a gun in a place, I got a gun. Like there is not a time where you're going to find me in New Hampshire without a gun. I'm going to, my girlfriend lives in Connecticut. I'm going to do my Connecticut class on Sunday. So that way I can walk around with my gun in Connecticut. You don't find me without a gun, but I'm not out there telling people what they got to do. And I don't want another guy with a gun coming up to me when I got a gun saying, you got to do this. And then him looking at my waist and noticing something poking out of the side here and him getting squirrely. That's a completely reasonable thing to be concerned with. So mandates and force and decrees from the government and sending people with guns to make people do stuff, I am 100% against that all the time, because you only got one life, and there are too many people that have died because of cops. There's that anarchist that stopped the active shooter in Colorado just a couple weeks ago,
and the cop showed up and shot him.
Yeah, because that guy died because the cop shot him.
Right. I think that's the ultimate libertarian approach. Is like, I'm going to evaluate the information available and make my own decision, and respect the decisions that others make, and respect the property of others.
Yep.
I remember I threw a big event with Joe Jorgensen out in Keene last year, and you came, and you were one of only 3 or 4 people that showed up wearing a mask, and nobody gave a shit. Nobody gave anybody who was wearing a mask a hard time, and nobody who was wearing a mask gave anybody else a hard time until the police showed up and told us if everyone didn't mask up, they were going to cancel our event.
I didn't know the Popo showed. Did they show up after I left, or?
You were on the bus with Joe when they showed up.
Oh, all right.
So, and they showed up and said, everyone has to wear a mask. This is, I'm like, what the fuck? But with the other thing, with like grocery stores, supermarkets, one of the arguments that I have seen with people who have been going in and refusing to wear masks, even though the store has it posted, is, one, like Market Basket in Manchester, they never enforced it. They've had the sign up the whole time, and then they'd never say anything. Home Depot would have the sign up, and then you ask somebody inside, they say, we don't give a shit. A lot of businesses were putting the signs up, putting the requirements up in response to the state mandates. And it's really hard to know what the opinions of the property owner are when the state has come in and threatened them to do something.
Yep. Yeah, I understand completely. I agree.
Yeah.
And I wish I had a good answer, but I don't.
I wish there was a good answer.
Yeah, you're probably right. Because there probably isn't. I don't have, like I said, I don't have an issue, wearing a mask, and I don't have a problem accommodating a business that has a preference. That's their deal, and I'll wear it when I walk inside, and I'll take it off when I get outside. And it like I said earlier, it's always bad when the government's like, you have to do this, because if the government says you have to do it, you're going to do it, or you're going to interact with a guy with a gun. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to interact. I got a gun, and I don't want to interact with a guy with a gun, because if I got a gun and he's got a gun, that just isn't an interaction that I want, because I don't like the idea of a gunfight.
Now, have you ever had an interaction with a New Hampshire cop when you had a gun?
Oh yeah, multiple times. Never had a problem. Had
Usually
a problem
great.
with had a problem with a Vermont statey one time, but never had a problem with a New Hampshire cop. I have a good story. When I first moved to New Hampshire, I was open carrying back in the day when I used to open carry, and I was in Keene, and me and some of my friends went into this Mexican joint in Keene, and we sit down, and the police officer walks in, and she comes over and she says, "So, which one of you guys has the gun?" And I'm like, I'm open. We all do, but I'm open carry, you know. And I was like, "Do you want to see my?" I had my permit. You want me to get my permit? She's like, "No, it's fine." She's like, "Someone from Massachusetts almost killed themselves jumping in front of my cruiser to tell me that you had a gun, so I had to come in here." I was like, "Thank you, officer." She's like, "Thank you too. You guys have yourself a good evening." I was like, "Thank you. Have a good one."
So back when I lived in Natick, Mass, I worked for Garda, an armored car company, doing logistics for them. One of the requirements was I had to be armed at work all the time. We had a big vault. We had close to $500 million in cash at any given time. Everyone in the building had to be armed. That was just part of the employment deal. I went to go get coffee before work one morning. It's like 6:30 in the morning, and there's a Hess station across the street from the vault. I walk in. The owner of the station knows me. He knows everyone. We're always in there throughout the day getting coffee. He has no problem. He had never been robbed because he was across the street from 40 people with guns all day. And as I walk out, there's a Needham cop, gun drawn, screaming at me.
Of course.
To put my hands in the air. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, it's 6:30 in the morning. I'm just drinking my coffee. I'm like, no, I'm not doing this. And I'm just like, and I keep walking, and he starts screaming. And like, it finally got to the confrontation down. I'm like, listen, I have a license. I can carry. I'm on the clock. I need to get back to work. Go get fucked. And he's like, you can't open carry in Massachusetts. And like, actually, go fuck yourself. I can. And I recited the law that allows me to open carry in Massachusetts.
I work for a security company.
Yeah.
Dickhead.
No, even beyond that, your Class A license in Massachusetts allows you to open carry anywhere.
Does it?
Yeah, because one of the restrictions that they can put on it is that you're only allowed to open. You can't conceal. So I pointed out to him, and he just like calms down. He's like, well, you're in Needham. You have to know that that's kind of thing scares people. And I just looked at him like, yeah, 40 years ago, they'd be scared of a black president, but look who's in the White House. And just walked off. After I moved to New Hampshire, I moved into a small apartment up in Nashua. And just a few months in, there was a night where cops raided the building, swarmed the building, because somebody had called 911 hearing somebody screaming help on the third floor or something. Banging on my door at like 2 a.m. I had apparently slept through all the screams. And somebody banging on my door, not identifying themselves at 2 a.m. I opened the door with a gun. And it's a Nashua cop who just sees it, looks at me up, and is like, we had a call about a scream. Did you hear anything? Never drew his gun, completely unfazed. Cool, didn't give a shit at all. I'd gotten pulled over in Manchester early last year. Cops is like, you got a gun on you? I'm like, probably.
Maybe.
I'm gonna be honest, I grabbed a backpack and I didn't exactly clean it out before. I'm going to hang out with some friends, and he just like took my bag, looked through. He's like, oh yeah. Here you go. Just keep it in the back seat till we're done. They don't care. It's kind of great here from what I was used to in Massachusetts, everyone being terrified of guns.
Well, I mean, that probably comes with the culture of just, it's so rare and they're so legislated that even people that are allowed to carry, people that have the permit and gone through the steps to carry a gun, they're so, you have to keep it on you and keep it concealed and et cetera. And it's so rare for someone to take go to go through the hassle of getting your permit and stuff, that the police are just not used to interacting with people with guns. I imagine a Massachusetts cop that comes to New Hampshire, I'm sure that they would have a significant culture shock because there are guns everywhere.
Right. Well, to me, I don't think you're necessarily right with how few people actually do it in Massachusetts. It's mind blowing, but Massachusetts actually has a higher per capita gun ownership than New Hampshire does.
No kidding.
It's just in Massachusetts that nobody open carries, nobody displays them. Everyone's afraid of what's going on.
Of getting shot by a cop?
Of getting shot by a cop. When I was in college, I actually worked for the Wareham Police Department, part-time, in the department, and I ended up being the firearms licensing officer. I had to handle every Class A application that came through. I only denied one in the entire year and a half I was there. I had to go to court, and the guy's like, he denied my license. The judge is like, why'd you deny his license? I'm like, he's got 7 restraining orders and 2 domestic assault and battery convictions. Like, that wouldn't seem obvious. But I remember, especially after Sandy Hook. After Sandy Hook happened, I go into work the next day and I had 400 applications on my desk.
Wow.
Of new first-time gun owners, people who never applied for a license before, that like see the news, oh, those are going to get expensive, might as well get one now. Like,
makes sense.
But I also think the whole more per capita guns in Massachusetts than New Hampshire might be because people in New Hampshire who are gun owners, it's just kind of a matter of course. Like, I only own 4 or 5 guns, but most gun owners I know in Massachusetts own 14 or 15 because it's something about the state telling you you're not allowed to have it that makes you go out and get it. So
I went out and I spent a disgusting amount of money on a pre-ban AR-15 back when I lived in Massachusetts because I didn't want to have to deal with worrying about restrictions and stuff. And it was a pencil barrel Colt. And I spent way more money than it was worth, but I didn't have to worry about what I put on it or if I had, I didn't have to worry about anything. It was pre-ban. So I was just like, whatever, I'll do what I want. So.
Well, I had a family member who was one of the reactionaries in Massachusetts. So, the government's going to ban them. I got to go get one now. And I think it was after, it was well before Sandy Hook. It was back when I still lived at home with my parents. But he went out and bought a Massachusetts compliant AR-15 after getting his license. And here we are, it's like 10 or so years later, he reached out to me. He's like, hey, I don't really need this or want it, and it just kind of takes up space and creates a liability that I travel too much for work and having to store it's an issue. You want to buy this off me? I'm like, nah.
I'll give you $100 for the lower receiver.
Yeah, like, well, no, the lower is part of the freaking bullet button thing.
Oh, they have that in Mass now.
The one he got did. I'm like, I'll give you. It's like I'll give you 50 for the lower because I got to replace that. Like,
get out of here. I'll just build another one.
Yeah, but it's like, nah. The attorney general roped you into buying something you're never going to be able to get rid of. Especially now in Massachusetts, it's illegal to transfer them.
You can't transfer them at all?
No, after Maura Healey's nonsense executive order on gun control, rewriting the consumer regulations because she didn't need the legislature to do that.
Good grief. I mean, obviously, I don't pay much attention to the Massachusetts gun laws now because I live in New Hampshire. But it's ridiculous to think, as much as there are some restrictions in Connecticut. And I spend a good deal of time down there because of my girlfriend. And there are some restrictions, but generally Connecticut is still a much more gun-friendly state than Massachusetts is. Massachusetts is really, really draconian. They're right up there with California or New York.
So I went to a convention in Connecticut a few years back. And I remember one of the speakers, they had brought a speaker from some Connecticut gun club to talk about like how to prepare yourself and how to get yourself set up legally with guns and whatnot in Connecticut. And afterwards he was taking questions and I asked him like, all right, so listen, like if you had to buy one gun, only one gun, and that has to serve you for whatever purposes you need a gun for, what gun would you buy? And he starts going through, it's blah, 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 blah. And he came up with like something like a Ruger 1022. I'm like, okay, I live in New Hampshire. And he's like, get yourself an FN scar. like immediately. It's like, well, what's legal and what's not? Like, that affected his opinion. When I told him I live in New Hampshire, he's like, no, get much better gun.
I mean, a 1022, I'm a big fan of 1022s. I think they are a phenomenal 22 rifle. I can't say enough good things about them. That being said, my friend who lives on Long Island was asking me what he should get. And I was like, look, you should get something. He kept sending me 22 rifles. He wanted to get some kind of rifle. And I'm like, get a rifle caliber rifle, and he ended up with a Tavor. He's a Jewish guy, so he's like, I want to get this. I like this. And I'm like, all right, and it's got a fin on the back of the handle, so that way you can't actually wrap your thumb around it. Right. He brought it up here, and I showed him how to take that thing off. I was like, look, I know you have to keep this thing on, but this is how it comes off. So that way, when, if you decide that you want to get crazy and modify your gun. But he thanks me on a regular basis. He's like, dude, thank you for telling me to get this gun. I was like, you're not even done yet, man. You need more. You need a handgun, at least one. Yeah. I was like, you're just getting started, but the Tavoro's it's a good start. I tried to convince him to get an AR, but he was just like, man, I like this one. I'm like, all right, dude. Yeah, at least it's a rifle caliber.
There's something fun about bullpups.
Yeah, it's a nice gun. I like it. I shot it. I like them a lot. And IWI makes quality stuff. I mean, Tavor's is the service rifle for at least some of the IDF. So
at some point you got to try my little 22 modification on the P90.
On a P90, is it full auto?
Allegedly not.
It's allegedly not.
It can be.
Can be. Not when I don't put it on full auto.
Right. I always wanted a P90 when I was a kid, and like that looks like a real fun gun. And then I looked at the price of 5.7 ammunition. I'm like, fuck that nonsense.
I don't know what it is now, especially with the ammo drought, but I imagine that it's probably 75 cents a round or more.
There was a point where it was cheaper than 9mm and 5.56.
Was it?
Yeah.
Well, no one bought it back then. Yeah.
But I ended up finally getting around to. I built one. Had a custom built frame and scrapped out parts and custom made parts to put a 1022 receiver into it.
Nice.
So nice little P90 and 22. I'm like, hey, I can afford to shoot this.
Yeah. That's another thing that I love about 22, man. You can sit there and actually afford to shoot it. You can plink all afternoon.
Right. So, all right. So that's not a bad list. Alan's got a list of what everyone needs to own: his muzzleloader, your bolt action, your shotgun, your AR, and your handgun.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
I don't know about a muzzleloader though. I mean, that's probably I imagine that's just for fun,
or for deer season.
Oh yeah, All right, fair enough.
When I get all the fancy rules, that's my one big regret since moving to New Hampshire is I haven't been hunting yet. I used to hunt all the time when I lived in Massachusetts.
That's hilarious.
Since I moved to New Hampshire, working in the insurance industry, deer season just lines up with open enrollment, so I just haven't had the time to go at all since I moved.
Well, got to get out early.
Alan did forget the cannon.
Who's Alan?
Alan's the one who made our suggestion for what we need.
Oh, okay. Right. Yes, there you go.
So, all right. Well, no, that's a good question. If there's one thing that you're not allowed to own, even in New Hampshire, that you could, what would it be?
I mean, suitcase nuke.
Suitcase nuke? Yeah. I'm gonna settle just for a killdozer.
I think the thing is you can pretty much own anything in New Hampshire. There's no restrictions on machine guns there, so it's not a matter of what I can or can't own in New Hampshire. It's just a matter of what I'm willing to remortgage the house to get. Yeah. My friend has an Agent K trigger package. Just the trigger package costs $30,000 because it's serialized. Jesus. And it's pre-banned, fully auto. I'd love to get an M16 lower that I could slap on. But the thing is, like, machine guns are fun, but
expensive.
It's expensive for the machine gun. It's expensive for ammo. And it's like, when are you really going to have to, when are you and your buddies going to have to lay down suppressive fire? Like, really? Yeah. And when is a machine gun going to be necessary for the suppressive fire that you need to lay down? Because, if you've got 3 or 4 guys shooting and bop, 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 it doesn't have to be machine gun to make people go, oh crap. and get their heads down. And that's what a machine gun's for, is to make people say, oh crap, and get their head down.
I haven't felt the need. I haven't felt the want to go get a machine gun since last time I went out shooting one. And I sat there, I'm like, sweet. 2 seconds later, I'm like, well, that was $70.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it'd be cool. I'd love to own a machine gun. I'd love to own a M249 saw. I'd love one. But it's like, all right, well, it's going to cost you, you're going to go through 1,000 rounds in 45 minutes. And that's, going to be like $800 or $700, so it's cool and it's fun. But the cost of ammo is just, it's through the roof. And it's also still hard to come by ammo. There's a lot of places where you still can't get it. And if you do get it, you're paying a premium because people are still buying ammo and squirreling it away. And I imagine that is going to continue for the foreseeable future, because I know as soon as I, get my hands on ammo, I'm like, all right, I'll buy all that you got, or I'll buy, here's 1,000 rounds, give me that. And then, 2-3 months later, I haven't shot any of it. And I'm like, I need to get another 1,000 rounds,
Yeah, there was a point during the shortage right after you took off to Texas where I'm like, I can't find ammo anywhere. I'm pretty sure Phil mentioned that he had a fucking bunch. Where'd he go?
Phoenix Ammunition. You can try Brownells. Brownells is, I've got a friend at Brownells, and they are pretty good, but it's tough for them to get ammo in. You might be able to buy in really large quantities, like when they get one of the 55-gallon drums in, but you're going to spend 10 grand on that. If you're looking for smaller quantities, you can check out Phoenix Ammunition. It's FENIX Ammunition. They're on Twitter at Phoenix Ammunition. They're good people.
All right. So for all you New Hampshire watchers who have been complaining about ammo, Phil just told you where to get it.
And Phoenix sends emails when they do a run. They'll send you an email and be like, hey, it's going to be available tomorrow at whatever time. So check and get your order in right away. So
Tisley's got a question. How expensive is making your own ammo?
What's up, Tisley? I know Tisley.
I'm not too familiar. I don't do much reloading. I haven't done it in a while. I've got some friends that do. Phil, have you ever done reloading on your own ammo?
I haven't, but you can save probably now on 5.56. You can probably save 20 cents a round over the over the long term. But you're going to be buying, you got to buy your bullets, your primers, your brass, and your
primers.
Exactly, that's the thing. Just because you're reloading doesn't mean the parts for the cartridges are all available. I know that for a long time. Powder was hard to come by. If you can find primers, like you said, those are hard to come by. And then you also have to have the actual loading, the stuff to reload. So it's an investment in the first place. It's going to cost you a few to $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 to get started loading, depending on how intense you're going to do it. And then you can spread you'll end up saving over the long run, probably, 20 cents a round. And so, at 50 cents a round, compared to 30 cents a round, that's not bad. But it's not great either. It's not super cheap. You're still going to be paying for it. And it's probably a worth it in the long run, but, there is a significant expense to get started.
Yeah, I haven't reloaded since college myself, and I was reloading in college, and when I was reloading, it was much more expensive than buying it at the store. But the reason was I shot on the school's rifle team, and I was custom loading custom rounds.
Yeah.
Because believe it or not, the college I went to in Massachusetts had a rifle team.
Used to be.
Yeah. All right. So that all done. Pandemic's over, Phil. What's next for you? What's next for all that remains? You guys
is the pandemic over?
Well, they say it is. You got vaccinated.
I don't know. I don't know. I hear a lot of talking about, remasking and upswings and blah, blah, blah. So we'll, the Delta variant, we'll see if it's over. I want it to be over. I think that there's a lot of people that are sick of it. I think that there could be some issues with it actually being over, but I said
early on that my metric for when the pandemic was going to be over was when I could go to a show at the Palladium in Worcester and not have to wear a mask, and they're scheduling shows now.
Are you going to the Killswitch show?
I was thinking about it. I hadn't paid attention. I'm terrible at scheduling things and planning in advance. I just went to a NASCAR race this past weekend.
Ooh, and Loudon, huh?
Yeah.
There's a Kill Switch show that they're doing. I think they're going to be live streaming it. They're calling it Vaccinated and Inebriated, and they will be playing. Now I don't know what the situation is with attendance, how many people are they going to let in and stuff, but that might be worth looking into. As for All That Remains, we've got shows. We started playing shows a couple weeks ago. We did a show in Hot Springs. We did Rockfest this past weekend in Wisconsin, and we're going to Sturgis in a couple weeks. We're going to be playing there. We are going to do a show in Orlando. We've got Incarceration coming up. So we will be busy for the next month and a half or so, 2 months, something like that. And then we're going to be taking the winter to chill out and see how things go. We have a tour planned next year. It is a tour that is in celebration of 15 years of the Fall of Ideals. Like you said, that record came out in 2006. We would be doing that tour this year. We had started planning it last year, but COVID threw a wrench in everybody's works. And so we didn't know what was going to happen and when you would actually be able to have tours and stuff. So we're pushing it back to next year. We'll be doing that in the spring, looking at starting sometime around March, April, something like that. We'll have an announcement in the next couple weeks. I think maybe in August we'll have an announcement. And we're repressing the Fall of Ideals on vinyl. There's going to be a bunch of special web stuff coming up that we've already got filmed, and so we're going to be doing a lot of stuff. There'll be merch on sale and a lot of cool things for the Fall of Ideals. And then after that, there will be a new All That Remains record next year that we will be promoting and putting out. Maybe if not next year, maybe in 2023.
Well, I'm excited.
We'll see.
I know I've asked you in the past and I've bugged you about it in the past, but when are you going to do a show in New Hampshire so I don't have to drive to Massachusetts to see you?
Well, I don't know, but I assume we probably will get something at the casino in Hampton Beach.
Okay.
Or we could probably do something there because we've done some shows there, and they're a good time. So we will see. But I hope that we can put that together pretty soon.
Don't get me wrong, the Palladium's an incredible venue. I just hate driving to Massachusetts.
Well, it's in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
I get nervous about the police in Massachusetts myself. So
I grew up at the Palladium pretty much. So
hold on a second, my manager's calling me. I understand that feeling. I spent a whole lot of time in at the Palladium in Worcester myself.
Yeah, the only music video I can say I'm a part of is a music video of a band, a couple kids I went to high school with. I rented out the Palladium, and we just had a big mosh pit, and I'm somewhere in there, falling off the balcony into a crowd of people.
Good, safety conscious. I like it.
Hey, I was 15. You don't really think safety is a thing until you're about 20.
Yeah, I mean, if then, we'll see.
So, Phil says Alan says there's plenty of New Hampshire venues. Alan, can you name one you'd like to see All That Remains play at?
I don't know about plenty. There are some, but
I'm just upset that we don't have something in Manchester. That'd be great for you guys to come play.
You'd think, but I think it's likely because of how close Boston and Worcester are. Really, the Worcester Palladium really dominates the southern New Hampshire area. Really, it's either Worcester or we go and play up in Portland, Maine. Is it Portland, Maine? Is there a Portland, Maine? Is it Portland? Yeah. Okay.
Portland. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So it's either down in Worcester or there's a place in Burlington called Higher Ground that we do. And there's a place in Portland, Maine. But that kind of dominates the New England area. So
now when you do go on tour, you usually go on tour with other bands. It's never just All That Remains.
Usually.
A couple of years ago, when I went to go see you in Worcester with Attila and Escape the Fate.
Yes.
And it was right after Franz and Craig Babbitt had done a whole bunch of libertarian shit with Eric July. How often is it that you find other people in like the metal scene that you're on tour with that end up sharing your politics to a degree?
On tour, not very frequently. Not very frequently. I love Eric. Eric is great. Eric July is phenomenal. I think that he's doing great work. I think Backwards is sick. I can't wait. I know they have a record that they're waiting to put out. I don't know if they've put it out yet, but he was talking about, or they were, if I understand correctly, they were waiting to release it. But I'm a fan of Backwards. I like the work they do.
Well, there's the call out to Eric July. Eric, why aren't you doing a song featuring Phil?
Well, or maybe why isn't All That Remains doing a song featuring Eric? Maybe we talked about that. So, but we'll see. So,
well, no, because I remember when Backwards album came out, and I was listening to it, and it's like, oh, Attila's on the song, Franz is on a song, oh, Craig Mabbitt's on a song. Where's Phil? Like, I'm going to see all three of them this weekend. Where the fuck's Phil? Like,
yeah, I'm a fan of Eric and the work that he does. So I would love to see him do, or I would love to have him do something with us. So we talked about it, and I intend on making it happen when we do the next All That Remains.
Nice. I'm just saying, I have seen Backwards play in a hotel lobby in New Orleans, and in a pavilion on the middle of a mountain in New Hampshire. What's to stop All That Remains from coming to Porkfest, or at least you coming to Porkfest next year?
Next year, I don't know that there is anything in particular stopping me. But I'm a homebody, and I don't get out to events a lot, is really the deal. There was people asking if I was going to Freedom Fest. That's going on right now. I saw Reed Coverdale is there with the guy that does Liberty Lockdown podcast, and people are asking if I was going up to the to Porkfest, and I know that Tom Woods was there, and Spike was up there, and all these cool people. But I'm really not a social gathering kind of guy. Is really a big part of why I don't end up going to these things.
It's Porkfest. You gotta come, even for just a day. Drive up. It's not that far. It's like a 2.5 hour drive. Come up for a day. You'll want to stay the week. I ended up staying 2 weeks. There are hotels, right? You can get hotels up there. There's a motel on site. Rogers Campground owns a motel right on site that people get rooms. There's a significantly nicer hotel about a mile down the street called the Cabot. But this year was the first year in the years I've been going where the motel sold out, the hotel sold out. Every hotel within 30 miles sold out, and every Airbnb listing within 20 miles sold out.
Wow.
And the campground was at capacity.
Wow. Big year. Well, but that's what lockdowns do, lockdowns, maybe lockdowns make libertarians, Yeah.
Alan's got a suggestion. Come play the SNU Arena. You think you could sell out the SNU Arena?
No.
We
scream too much to sell out the SNU Arena. It's the fact that it's an arena. What is it, like 10,000? No.
Yeah, well,
that's a lot of people. It's a lot of people.
You scream too much to sell it out. I mean, I've seen Kill Switch at arenas.
Yeah, but you haven't seen them at the SNU Arena.
I haven't seen anybody at the SNU Arena since I moved to New Hampshire.
I think Five Finger Death Punch played there with Shinedown. I think they did a show there. So
okay,
but
well, it's better than Trapped.
That guy just is. That guy's just bad.
That beef still going on, or is that's beef settled, or?
I didn't have any beef with.
No, he had a beef with the world.
Well, yeah, he did. I don't know. I know that he was. I don't know what his deal is. He did have a beef with the world. He was looking.
Have you ever met him in real life, or is it just a Twitter personality he has?
I did a podcast with him. I talked to him, and he's extremely MAGA, and I was, I don't have any more animosity towards MAGA people than I do towards like the extremely woke, or I don't have any less animosity towards MAGA people than I do the extremely woke. I think that they're, two sides of the same coin. It's that ugly tribalism that I just don't get into. And so, there were some things that I agreed with him on, and some things that I was like, no, dude, you're wrong and stuff. And we had the whole podcast, and then I happened to make a remark about Nickelback and Metallica, and that was what kind of set people off. Because if you listen to Nickelback, and you listen to Load era Metallica, they're very, very similar sonically. And there's a lot of songs that are from Load era Metallica that you could put on a Nickelback record and be like, that fits perfectly fine, you know? So Nickelback's a little more, a hair more sleazy rock than Load era Metallica, but not significant.
Nickelback might get a lot more hate than they actually deserve.
They definitely do. Definitely,
not to defend Nickelback.
No, I will defend Nickelback because I think they write great songs. They're a band that people love to hate, but they don't deserve it because they have so many fans and they've sold so many records, and you don't do that if you're bad. Like, you just don't. The very fact that they sell as many records and have as many hit songs is an indication that they are not writing bad music, you know? I mean, so.
Well, I just remember one of the best performing memes we tweeted from Joe Jorgensen's account was a Nickelback tweet that said, "I swear to God, if Donald Trump or Joe Biden win this election, we're putting out a new album."
I like it. But
that was the best performing tweet I'd ever seen.
I would have loved to. I wish it was true, because I would have loved to see a new Nickelback album. So, all
right. Well, we're coming up on an hour. Phil, is there anything you want to leave people with before we sign off?
Check me out on Twitter. I'm also stream on Twitch Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Fridays. It is twitch.tv/Phil That Remains, and I am Phil That Remains on everything. So if you look me up on Twitter, on Twitch, on Minds, on just about everything. I'm not on Instagram because I got zucked for literally no reason.
So. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, Facebook, or Odyssey, there's a link in the description to Phil's link tree. You can get all his social media and follow his Twitch stream tonight. We're live right there. If you're watching this anywhere else, I don't know. Twitch doesn't let me put up descriptions. We'll figure that in the future. But hey, it was great having you, Phil. Great conversation.
Thank you.
And again, I look forward to seeing you guys on tour.
Good to talk to you, man.
Thanks for coming out.